Hello, beloved souls. Welcome to a commentary channel. My name is Jem, Jem, a psychic medium, author, channel, and truth seeker. So, my video is, which system is right? Science, religion, or spirituality? Why is it that humans still can't agree on what is ultimately true? Science says one thing, religion says another, and spirituality, that adds an entire different layer. So, how do we figure out what system is right, or even if that's the right question to ask? Science, the modern measuring stick. Let's start with science. Science has clearly advanced human understanding in a huge way. We now know germs cause disease, not demons. We know the earth isn't flat, that planets orbit stars, and that lightning isn't a sign of divine wrath, but a natural discharge. Science is rooted in observation, experimentation, and repetition. In many ways, it's the only system that actively tests its own ideas and is willing to admit when it's wrong. That's a strength. But it's not without limits. Science can't yet explain everything. It struggles with consciousness, near-death experiences, or why some people claim to have an out-of-body experience or alien abduction experiences like I've had. And just because something hasn't been proven yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Science evolves, yes, but if something falls outside of measurable, repeatable data, it tends to get dismissed. Religion, the ancient blueprint. Then we have religion. For many, religion provides comfort, moral structures, community, and purpose. It tells us where we came from, why we suffer, and what happens after death. Religions like Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism offer detailed worldviews with sacred texts and divine laws. But here's the problem. Not all religions agree. They can't all be right in the literal sense. Some teach eternal punishment. Others teach reincarnation. Some say there's one life. Some say many. People often say, I just believe it because it feels true. But feeling isn't fact. There are people in every religion, in every country, who feel their belief is the right one. So either one is right or none of them are fully right. That's where faith comes in. But faith, by definition, doesn't require evidence. And then there's spirituality, the experience beyond dogma. Now, spirituality, this one's harder to define, but it's deeply personal. It doesn't always follow a holy book or organized system. Spirituality asks, what have I experienced? What do I feel is true beyond the five senses? For example, when I was still a Christian, I once woke in sheer panic while levitating. Looking back, I question, was it demonic like I once believed? Or was I astral traveling? Or was I being abducted, as I believe I have been many times, by non-human intelligences? Science couldn't measure that. Religion might call it deception or spiritual warfare. But spirituality, the experience, felt very real and very deeply transformative. That's the thing. Spirituality often overlaps with trauma, awakening intuition, and unexplainable events. But it's also subjective. What is true for me may not be true for you. Without evidence, it remains personal insight, not universal truth. So let's look at part 4, truth versus belief versus evidence. So, which system is right? Here's the problem. We often confuse truth, belief, and evidence. Belief is what we accept as true, often emotionally or culturally. Evidence is what can be tested and observed. Truth is what actually is, regardless of whether we believe it or can prove it. It just is. Sometimes these three overlap, but sometimes they don't. You can believe something that has no evidence, and it still might be true. You can also have evidence for something and still not understand its full truth. So where does that leave us? Science is a tool. Religion is a framework. Spirituality is an experience. None of them have the full picture. Not just yet. Maybe truth isn't found in choosing one system, but in honestly exploring all of them without fear. And maybe, just maybe, truth is something we experience, not something we conquer. Thanks for listening. If this made you think, please leave a comment. I welcome respectful debate, different views, or even your personal experience. Let's keep asking the hard questions because that's where growth begins. Please take care of each other and of yourselves. And where do I stand? Spirituality. I find I am not religious, and yes, I agree science has found the answers, but for me, science is no closer to the truth than religion. And the reason is because to know truth, remember, truth just is. And perhaps the day we die is the day we know truth. That's another thought. Now, I'm not preaching that you have to convert to my ideas. I'm still questioning and looking for truth. But let me say this. Truth is. It just is. It is not belief. Belief doesn't make something true. So saying, I believe there is a God or gods doesn't make it true. There might be, but belief doesn't make it true. And science saying that we evolved from ape-like creatures doesn't make that true. Yes, they have found fossil records, but they're still not linked to apes. I can name them because I studied hominid behaviour and hominid evolution at university. And at that time, they thought Lucy, which was a fossil found in South Africa, was a Ramapithecus fossil that was a direct ancestor of humans, only to a couple of decades later to retract and say, no, sorry, it's actually an ape ancestor. But at least with science, you can test things, and science starts with a theory and will test that theory. But I also recommend a great little book, and it's called What is This Thing Called Science? Written by Chalmers, Chalmers. I think it was written in the 1980s. Great little book. All right. Thanks for watching. Be kind to each other and yourselves. Love, light, and blessings. Bye.